She didn't fall for your charm. She fell for the illusion that you were in control, and the moment she realized you were not, she pulled away. She used to reply fast. Now she takes hours. You replay every word, wondering where it went wrong. You were kind, loyal, available, but she grew distant, cold, disinterested, and deep down, you have asked yourself the question no one helps you answer. Why does she lose interest the moment I show I care? Here's the truth, the one no one dares say out loud. She never wanted love. She wanted tension. She never wanted to feel safe. She wanted to feel something she couldn't explain. And the men who give her that, the ones she chases long after the conversation ends, they do not talk like you. They do not need her attention. They do not speak to her heart. They speak to her ego. Because when you talk to a woman, you are not exchanging words. You are revealing power. Most men think attraction is about being liked, that if they say the right thing, if they are kind enough, funny enough, patient enough, she will stay. But what if that kindness is the very reason she loses interest? What if she does not crave love? She craves confusion. And the moment she can fully predict you, she forgets you. This is not dating advice. This is psychological warfare. And Machiavelli knew it centuries ago. He warned, "It is better to be feared than loved when one cannot be both." What you are about to learn isn't for the man who wants her approval. It is for the man who wants her mind. Because there is a way to speak. That makes her crave your attention, need your presence, and question why she cannot forget you. But she will never know why, and that is the point. This is the dark art of control. Once you understand it, you will never be seen the same again. You did everything right. You remembered her birthday. You told her how beautiful she looked when she did not expect it. You waited by your phone, replied instantly, stayed available. You were kind, you were patient, you were everything she said she wanted, and yet, she did not choose you. She thanked you, she vented to you, but she never desired you. Because here's the part you were not supposed to figure out. She does not love the man who gives everything. She loves the man who gives nothing, and makes her want it all. There is a name for the man she leans on, but never sleeps with. The one she wishes she could like, but somehow never does. He is the emotional servant. He listens, he fixes, he gives, and waits for her to see his worth. But she never does. Because worth is not proven through kindness. It's felt through power, and power doesn't beg to be noticed. Most men today are performing. They are not being real. They are strategizing for approval. Every compliment is a transaction. Every kind gesture is a silent hope. Maybe now, she will love me. But here is what's happening under the surface. Every time you try harder, she feels it. Not just your effort, but your emotional positioning. She senses that you want her more than she wants you. And in that moment, the dynamic is dead. Her ego has won. Her curiosity vanishes. Desire dies quietly. Because in her mind, she owns you, and no woman obsesses over what she already owns. This is the mistake of the nice guy. He believes love is earned by proving value. But Machiavelli would laugh at that. He understood a darker law. Never let her know you want her more than she wants you. Why? Because once she knows she has you, she no longer needs to want you. This is why the Stoic anomaly drives her insane. He is the man who does not overtext, does not laugh to fill silence, does not chase, not because he is playing a game, but because he is centered in his own world. He speaks when he chooses. He leaves when it's time. He does not ask, "Do you like me?" He looks her in the eye and silently says, "You will never figure me out." And that is the difference. The emotional servant says, "Please see my worth." The Stoic anomaly says nothing, and she obsesses over what he is not saying. You see, her ego does not crave validation. It craves a challenge. It craves tension. It craves the feeling that it has not conquered you. That is why the kindest men get used, and the most composed men get chased. Because women are not drawn to emotional availability. They are drawn to emotional unpredictability. You do not have to be cold. You do not have to be mean. But if your every move says, "I am here for you no matter what," then you are not a mystery. You are not a challenge. You are not a threat to her ego. You are just a safe space. And safety does not seduce. So ask yourself, are you performing for approval or radiating indifference? Because one of those men gets texted at 2 a.m. and the other gets replaced. Desire is not logical. It is not built from lists, compatibility, or checkboxes. You could be the ideal man on paper, smart, successful, loyal, and still. She feels nothing. No hunger, no fire, no tension. Why? Because you were too easy to define. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Women are not wired to desire what makes sense. They desire what makes them feel, especially what makes them feel off balance, confused, curious, intrigued, what we call emotional disorientation. Her subconscious craves like a drug. Why? Because emotional chaos is how her ego stays engaged. When you are predictable, you give her control. When she has control, her ego relaxes. And when her ego relaxes, her desire dies. But when she is emotionally unsure, not quite safe, not quite dominant, not quite able to label you, her mind stays activated. She replays your words. She reads into your tone. She imagines what you meant. And in that space of imagination, desire takes root. This is not a tactic. It is psychology. And no one understood it more than Carl Jung. Jung believed women project their animus, their unconscious masculine image, onto the man they desire. But here is the key. The animus is not attracted to the man who reveals everything. It is drawn to the man who withholds, the mysterious one, the unreachable one, the man whose depths are hinted at, but never fully shown. Why? Because that man becomes a mirror for her imagination. She projects onto him her ideal, her craving, her fantasy. He does not seduce her directly. She seduces herself in response to him. And this is what most men never understand. She does not fall for who you are. She falls for who she thinks you might be, who she cannot quite figure out, who she hopes you are. That's why the moment you over-explain, overshare, over-reveal, you shatter that projection. She sees you clearly, and it's over. Mystery isn't a game. It's a survival trait of attraction. The more you reveal, the safer you become. And the safer you become, the less she imagines. And the less she imagines, the less she desires. Think of the men she obsesses over. The one who didn't compliment her back. The one who didn't text after the date. The one who felt present but emotionally just out of reach. She thinks about him not because of what he did, but because of what he didn't do. Because her mind is still trying to close the loop. Tension is the fuel. Obsession is the flame. Desire isn't built from clarity. It's built from questions, from why didn't he respond, from what did he mean by that, from why does he seem so calm when I try to provoke him. That man lives in her head, not because he begged for it, but because he gave her so little. She had to fill in the rest. And the moment she starts filling in the blanks, you've entered her psychological space. And you're not just a man anymore. You're a puzzle, a question, a story she can't finish. And women don't forget stories they couldn't finish. So, understand this. The most desired man is rarely the most available one. He's the one who moves slightly out of reach, not too far to be ignored, but never close enough to be claimed. She never quite knows where she stands with him. And that unease becomes desire, because control is a turnoff. But mystery is a magnet. Most men talk to women like they're auditioning. They treat conversations like emotional resumes. Look how kind I am. Look how thoughtful. Look how much I listen. But what they don't realize is this. She's not listening to your words. She's listening to your energy. And even deeper than that, her ego is scanning you like radar. Because women don't engage based on logic. They engage based on status calibration. Is this man confident, or is he compensating? Is he grounded, or performing? Is he speaking with conviction, or hoping I'll approve? She won't say any of this out loud, but every second you speak, her subconscious is making one decision. Is this a man I can control emotionally, or not? And the moment her ego decides you're predictable, explainable, or needy, you've already lost. Because when you talk to her emotions, you sound like everyone else. But when you speak to her ego, you don't just leave an impression, you leave an echo, a presence that lingers long after the words are gone. This is what we call ego-level communication. It has almost nothing to do with what you say, and everything to do with how you say it, and how little. Let me show you the difference. A man walks up to her and says, "You're so beautiful. I'd love to take you out sometime." She's heard it 1,000 times. Polite, predictable, safe. Her ego relaxes and instantly forgets him. Now picture this. A man walks up, says nothing at first. He looks at her with calm, unreadable focus. And when he finally speaks, he says, "You look like the kind of woman who ruins a man's peace." Then he pauses, not nervously, deliberately. He lets the silence do the rest. No smile, no follow-up, no over-explanation. And in that moment, she doesn't just hear him, she feels him. Because he spoke to her ego's self-image, not her ears. He gave her a puzzle, not a compliment. He let her wonder what he meant. And that wondering is the birth of obsession. You see, men who don't understand power fill space with noise. They talk fast, over-explain, try too hard to be funny or liked. But real dominance is delivered in rhythm, not volume. In calmness, not speed. Speak slowly. Pause often. Say less than you want to. Let her fill in the blanks. Because here's the paradox. The less you say, the more she thinks. And the more she thinks, the more emotionally invested she becomes. Women crave emotional puzzles. They get addicted to trying to decode a man who won't explain himself. There's a man she can't forget. They only spoke once. She remembers where she was standing, what she was wearing, how he looked at her, like he saw something she didn't even see in herself. He said one line, "There's something about you I can't decide on." And that's the problem. Then he smiled slightly and walked away. She never saw him again. But that moment, it replays every time she's alone, every time she meets someone new, every time she feels unchallenged by a man. Because he didn't give her the closure her ego demanded. He didn't try to earn her approval. He spoke to her status, not her surface. And in doing so, he bypassed her logic and rewired her memory. That's the power of speaking to the ego. Every conversation is a status negotiation. And when you try to be liked, you lose. Speak like your presence is the prize. Pause like your silence has weight. Look at her like you're reading her, not chasing her. Say less, mean more. Because she won't remember every word, but she'll remember how your calm unsettled her. She'll remember how your pauses felt louder than other men's words. She'll remember how she couldn't tell what you really thought. And that memory will live longer than any compliment ever could. The human mind hates unfinished stories. It craves resolution, certainty, understanding. It wants to close the loop. But here's the paradox. What we can't explain, we can't stop thinking about. This is why desire lives in mystery, not in what is said, but in what is left unsaid, not in the known, but in the question you didn't answer. You see, most men try to secure attraction with words. They explain everything, they clarify their intentions, they confess how they feel, and in doing so, they kill the tension. They close the loop too soon, and when the loop closes, the fantasy ends. But the man she obsesses over, he didn't give her certainty. He gave her confusion. He gave her a moment without an ending. This is what we call the unfinished moment theory. The idea that psychological gravity increases when you pull away before the story resolves. Think about it. A man who walks away mid-argument, frustrating. A man who leaves right after confessing something intense, without a smile, without closure, unforgettable. Machiavelli understood this power. He wrote, "A prince must learn how not to be good, and use this knowledge wisely." Not being good doesn't mean being cruel. It means not being emotionally generous when it costs you power. Carl Jung took it deeper. He saw that the unconscious mind projects power onto the unknown, that the shadow, the unseen, the mysterious, is what awakens archetypal desire. Combine them, and you get the formula. Power is not in domination. It's in suggestion. You don't own her mind by explaining. You own it by vanishing mid-seduction and letting her imagination do the rest. The disappearing strategist. She met him at a gallery. He didn't compliment her. He didn't try to impress. He simply looked at her, calm, unreadable. They spoke briefly. He said only one thing before leaving. "You look like you've hidden entire chapters of yourself, but maybe that's what makes you interesting." Then he nodded and walked out. No number, no "let's stay in touch," no follow-up. But now, she checks that gallery's Instagram every week. She replays the words. She tries to decode his tone. She wonders why he saw something in her that no one else ever noticed. He became a phantom in her thoughts, not because he gave her more, but because he gave her less. He left the moment unfinished, and now her mind keeps trying to finish it, without success. That is the trap. You don't trigger desire by showing up endlessly. You trigger it by being felt more in your absence than in your presence. The more a woman imagines you, the more she personalizes the fantasy. And what we imagine, we attach to. You didn't give her a definition, so her mind created one. You didn't say how you felt, so her ego is desperate to find out. You didn't explain why you left, so her subconscious can't let go. That's why ambiguity is power, because clarity satisfies the brain, but ambiguity hijacks it. The most forgettable men say everything. They lay their cards on the table. They chase, explain, plead. And in doing so, they become predictable, safe, dead to her desire. But the man who leaves just before she understands him, he becomes a living question inside her ego. Every man she meets after feels too simple, too certain, too soft. Because you never gave her the ending. And the human mind hates open loops. But the heart, it gets addicted to them. At some point, every man must make a decision, be remembered or be replaced. And most men, they spend their lives trying to be remembered by being nice, by being helpful, by being emotionally available. But here's what they don't realize. You don't become unforgettable by giving more. You become unforgettable by becoming rare. There comes a moment when the good man you've been trained to be must die. The version of you that waited for her replies. That asked if she got home safe. That stayed up just in case she needed someone to talk to. That man wasn't bad. He was just visible, predictable, easy to figure out. And women don't chase what they can predict. They chase what they feel slipping away. This is the shift. You don't become the man she obsesses over by saying the right thing. You become him by being the one who doesn't need her reaction. The emotional servant lives in fear of disappointing her. He texts first. He replies fast. He fills silence with jokes. He avoids tension like it's poison. He believes connection comes from being agreeable, but connection doesn't create craving. Distance does. The mental phantom, on the other hand, he speaks last. He leaves messages on read. He doesn't perform for her attention. He controls when he's seen, and how often, and when he speaks. It's not with a question mark, it's with calm weight. Every word feels like it was chosen. Every silence feels intentional. She starts wondering, why didn't he reply yet? Did I say something wrong? Is he even thinking about me anymore? And in those moments of uncertainty, her mind turns on itself, and the chase begins. Machiavelli once said, "Never give more than she fights to receive." This isn't cruelty, it's structure. It's making sure your energy has value, not just availability. When you give without resistance, your presence loses weight. When you disappear after an emotional spike, you create memory. Imagine this. You drop a line that hits her deeply, not needy, not romantic, just charged. You seem soft, but there's something dangerous behind your smile. Then, nothing. You vanish. No explanation, no follow-up, no double texts, no story posts trying to get her attention. You give her the moment and walk away from it. This is how the mental phantom is born. Here's the reality. If her beauty still intimidates you, she owns you. If her silence makes you panic, she controls the energy. If her attention feels like a reward, you've already lost the game. The shift begins when you no longer need her to validate your state. You sit in silence with ease. You let her moods pass like clouds, without reacting. You don't ask if she's okay. You don't chase the drop in energy. You let her feel your absence, without trying to fix it. And here's what happens next. She starts testing you. She sends subtle jabs, strange texts, silent treatments, not because she's lost interest, but because she's trying to crack you open. She's trying to see if you're real or just another man pretending not to care. And when you don't flinch, that's when she starts chasing, because she can't control you. And that unresolved emotional tension becomes the wire her obsession wraps around. Every time you show up too soon, too often, too eager, you subtract value from your presence. But when you pull back after intensity, when you become scarce, you create gravity. You haunt her thoughts not because you begged for space in them, but because you gave her just enough to want more, then disappeared. You became unavailable, not because you're playing games, but because your energy is no longer on discount. And in the silence, she hears you louder than ever. You don't trap her mind with compliments. You trap it with contrast, with silence, with the unexplained intensity that leaves her wondering what just happened. This isn't about manipulation. It's about psychological positioning. Because the truth is, what she can't define, she can't forget. And if you understand this, you become unforgettable. Let's break down the full psychological sequence, the Machiavellian method that most men will never learn. Don't start with compliments. Start with disorientation. Say something that pierces her image of herself, not aggressively, but confidently. It should feel true, yet hard to interpret, emotionally sharp, but delivered with calm detachment. Examples. You seem calm, but there's something chaotic behind your eyes. You don't trust people easily, do you? I can feel it. You carry a storm. I'm just wondering who taught you to hide it so well. Your tone, slow, quiet, intentional. Hold eye contact just long enough for tension, then break it before she fully processes the moment. Why this works? It bypasses the surface and speaks to her unconscious identity. You've just touched a part of her that's rarely seen, and even more, rarely called out. Her ego perks up. Her curiosity is triggered, but she hasn't yet figured out what to do with it. And then you move to the most powerful weapon of all. This is where 99% of men fail. They break the tension. They laugh. They explain. They say, "Just kidding," or "I hope that didn't sound weird." Don't. Silence is your blade. It cuts deeper than any word. After you drop the line, say nothing. Let her sit in the stillness. Let her imagination start to turn on itself. She'll begin filling in blanks. What did he mean? Why did he say that? Does he see something no one else does? And in that moment, her desire doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the question. Once you've delivered the emotional spike and allowed the silence to breathe, you disappear. Not rudely, not passive-aggressively. You just become unavailable. Don't text her first. Don't check in. Don't circle back to the moment. Let it echo. Why? Because disappearance creates scarcity. Scarcity creates value, and absence after intensity builds obsession. She felt something unfamiliar, and now you're gone. No apology, no validation, no explanation, just a vacuum, filled only by her imagination. Step 4. The ambiguous return, no apology, only suggestion. When you come back, and you will, you return with ambiguity, not need. You don't say, "Sorry for disappearing." You don't ask, "Did I make you uncomfortable?" Instead, you plant a soft psychological seed. Heard a line in a movie, made me think of you. Had a dream last night? Don't worry, it wasn't innocent. You cross my mind, dangerous when that happens. Each phrase is incomplete, suggestive, charged, but subtle. It reopens the loop without resolving it. And it tells her ego one thing: you never had full control of this connection. And her ego hates that, which means she'll try harder, she'll chase, she'll text, she'll lean in, and she won't even realize why. Because her imagination is now co-authoring the experience. She's emotionally invested in a version of you that she created in her mind, and the brain values what it imagines far more than what is handed to it. That imagined version of you, it's more seductive than the real thing, and you allowed her to build it. Emotional spike, open loop, silence, reappearance. It's not a tactic, it's a neural addiction loop. She told her friends about him, not because he chased her, not because he was rich or loud or charming, but because he looked at her once and said, "You seem like someone who builds walls for people, but lets no one in." Then he left. No social media, no follow-up. Now, 6 months later, she still thinks about it, still wonders, what did he see? Still checks that cafe when she walks by. Not because of what he did, but because of what he didn't explain. That's the art of trapping her mind. You don't chase her thoughts, you become them. She'll never know why she can't stop thinking about you, why your silence felt heavier than another man's affection, Why one line from you meant more than 1,000 compliments from someone else. She won't be able to explain it, not to herself, not to her friends, and that's the point. Because she's not supposed to understand it. She's supposed to feel it. You didn't trap her with words. You didn't win her through charm. You became a presence she couldn't decode, and the mind obsesses over what it can't define. That's the difference between men who are remembered and men who are recycled. This was never about tactics. It's not pickup artistry. It's not games. It's psychological positioning. It's the quiet domination of space. In her thoughts, her emotions, her ego. You've learned something most men never will. Speak to her ego, not her ears. Because the ego doesn't crave love. It craves status. And once you understand that, you stop trying to be liked. You start becoming unforgettable. You are no longer the man who waits for her texts. You are the man she checks her phone hoping to hear from. You are no longer the comfort she vents to. You are the question that keeps her up at night. Because you gave her a moment she couldn't label and a man she couldn't control. You're not chasing. You're being chased. And that is the shift. He who speaks least controls most. Machiavelli. So speak less. Move with silence. Drop weight, not noise. And when you do speak, let it echo. Because she'll never know what you did to her. But you will.